that, Chris, because that's what you do. But you cannot get to the next level doing what you've already done to get to where you are now. And it doesn't come natural. It isn't common sense. Common sense would be that you don't put your prices up because you'll lose clients. It's actually the opposite, because you do want to lose a certain amount of clients, but especially when you go back, because you imagine how many clients are going to be looking for a salon to get into. So you've got a chance of doing a lot more new clients when you go back, because they'll be all looking just to get in. Any more, Simon?
Yeah, apologies, mate. It went down for about 30 seconds. So I've put it back up. So if anyone can get back the questions back in, you are back live again, guys. You only missed about 30 seconds, but just
that was
the
the
numbers
best
back up.
Information we've given out for years in that last 30 seconds.
You can get it by paying for the subscription next. Sorry about that, but they are coming back. The questions will be coming. My question is the seriousness of moving location, because I'll give you a question while we wait for the numbers to get back in. But my dad asked me myself, because my dad doesn't live in my town. My dad lives in Warrington, and Warrington's Cheshire, so Cheshire's more affluent than the town I'm in, which is Lancashire based. So he was saying, did they not tell you, when I told him that we'd been speaking, did they not tell you to move towns? And I'm wondering myself, because of the comment that Richard just made, is that sort of a realistic thing to do?
What I would say with that, can I tell you, Chris? Because I think it's an important story to tell. I started in Hall Green back many years ago, which no one's going to know what area it is. So, but and the plan was to be there for probably, I knew it was going to be there for a reasonable amount of time, to be fair. And after a couple of years of kind of, I took on a salon that had been empty for probably about 2 years, kind of spent a little bit of money doing it up because that's all I had. We worked it. We were busy. I was busy. Got a couple of stylists. We got kind of busy with that. And then we refurbished it. And then 2 years after that, I thought I'd be there for another 5 years at least with that refit. And then where we currently are, a shop became available. And I couldn't afford to move at the time. It was the wrong time. But it was a location I wanted. And I knew it would be a good location. And so it was probably about 7 miles from away from the salon I was in. And I just thought I want it. And so I had to pay a premium for the lease at the time. We didn't have the money. We borrowed as much as we could. We used all our money, all our cash, any cash we had. And refurbished it over, spent on the refit. And the whole process was probably one of the most painful experiences I ever went to and through. And I probably didn't sleep for 6 months. I was nervous. I thought I'd made the right mistake and whatever. And I just thought I'll just work and work and work. And that really difficult time and that really difficult decision turned out to be the best decision I ever made. It was the best decision I ever made. But in the moment, in the indecision, all the self-doubt and whatever, I just kind of kept going and just think, I've got to make it work. And I was working 60, 70 hours a week in the salon. I was working my rear end off and all those things that people talk about. But the decision to go was, I almost didn't because I thought it's the wrong time. I'm not sure. And I'd have never got that location if I hadn't taken that opportunity. And I've had at least 4 salon owners since that time who've come to me and said, I wish I'd taken that unit. That were probably in a better position than I was at that time to get it. But I took it and it was the best decision I ever made. And I think sometimes you've got to look around, and I think people intuitively know whether they're in the right location or not. And if you're in a certain time in what I would call your business life cycle, then sometimes you have to make those big decisions. You've got to choose it for yourself. It's going to be the right decision for you. But I think sometimes they're the tough ones to make. But if you want something, you want something more, then they're the tough decisions, and tough decisions have to be taken. That's the nature of business. It's not running a business is not easy. If you want it easy, then choose a different path. You get uncertainty with having a business, and you've got to deal with that. And that's the whole thing about price increases, recruitments, disciplinaries, but moving premises or choosing to grow is part of that decision making. If you're thinking about it, it means that it's the right decision. Then that's it. Focus on it and go and do what you need to do. If it's an affluent area and you're already thinking about it, I'd say go for it 100%.
I'd say, though, as talk to people as well, people like us, get information and experience of what happens and what can happen and what you don't want to happen. But you've got to have experience behind you as well.
Gonzalo Hidalgo, I think it is, sorry for pronunciation, I'm not the best at these things. Great question. He's asked it 3 times apparently, and we've not read it back, so I'm making an effort. I just start to work as a salon manager in college in Langley. How can I change the mentality is cheap on the clients and staff? I'm not 100% sure on the terminology there, but the salon is amazing looking, and we work with a top brand. Remember, this is a hairdressing school, though.
This is an hairdressing
school. So I presume it's part of a college.
Right. People who ask questions like that, what I've done in the past, I've always invited them down to my salon to spend a day, and so that they can see how the salon is working. Sometimes what you say and what you see are 2 different things. Where you can talk a good script, you can talk a good game, but when you actually see it in action, all of a sudden they go, I know what you're talking about now. I get it. And they go back, and it makes such a big difference to them, because all the things that you're saying now make sense, but you have to see it sometimes in action. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're shut, and I can't invite him down. But that's what I would generally do with people like him, that you need to be convinced and see it for yourself that this is what's happening here. Could you take that back to where you are? And usually they go, absolutely. And then you follow it up with more education ongoing as well.
John Anthony who is a friend of mine in Matrix World. He said he would love to spend a day in your salon. So I'll tell you what, John, me and you will organise it. We'll go down together one day.
Yeah.
Good question. It might seem basic to some people when I've posted it on the page, but I like this question because it's something that I've always asked myself as I've evolved as a salon. But I know that the answer is actually more in depth than people will think. And the thing is, I offer a loyalty scheme to my clients. Do you think this is a good idea? Now, most people think loyalty is a deduction in price. So I'll let you take away on this one.
Well, it's funny because when all the supermarkets introduce this loyalty scheme, what you have to remember is that the supermarkets that first did it, and most places like that, they are selling a product. They're not selling a service. You can only offer a loyalty scheme if you're priced correctly and can involve the loyalty scheme into that pricing. We, as we've been talking about, find it difficult to get the price up in the volume that we want to do it to be able to offer the offer, the loyalty scheme. So in my opinion, I didn't get involved, and I wouldn't get involved in a loyalty scheme. I want people to come to my salon because of what we do, rather than me paying them to come in, if that makes sense. I want them to recognise that they call it a Me Too product. A Me Too product is like petrol. No matter where you get petrol from, petrol's petrol. Sugar's sugar. Salt's salt. No matter where you buy it from, it's exactly the same product. Well, I want them to be able to tell that hairdressing in certain sectors is a Me Too product. And some say, well, it's not. I'm different to anybody else. But you do cuts, you do colours, you do shampoos, you do blow dry, you do all the same services. Everybody does the same thing. But why are some busier than others? There's a reason for that. Now, once you start to find the secret of how you can get more people coming to you rather than them, why would you put on a loyalty scheme? I mean, you're just not going to do it. So the secret is...
I think, like Chris said, most people come to loyalty schemes because the price is already too low, to be honest. And so sometimes what they'll do is they're looking at way around now. If I increase the prices, how can I discount it back? So what I'll do is I'll increase the prices and then loyalty scheme in, and then I'll charge the client the same price. So it makes them feel better. But in the same way, the client's still paying the same bill. Does that make sense? So from a business point of view, not a very good idea. Loyalty schemes for me, we never had a loyalty scheme, Chris. We've had loads of discussions about it, Chris. Every marketing company we ever dealt with always said, oh, you want a loyalty scheme? And just never felt right to us. So I think if you're going to offer anything, it's value-added services. So, if the client's going to get anything, it's additional services. It's not a discount off what they'd already get. So it's not an extra service, but it could be that we tend to focus on our top 100 clients. We worked out that our top 100 clients brought in a third of our revenue. And so we tend to do a lot of that with them because they're the ones spending most of the money with us. And so we'll give them stuff from time to time, a treatment, a gloss with their colour, things like that. But none of it will involve a discount.
The reason I was laughing
I just think
sorry, Richard.
I think people discount. People put loyalty schemes in it's a way of kind of, I'm going to increase the prices, but I'm not discount the service back. I did it back when I was younger, doing these. When I was nervous about increasing my prices, I started discounting for clients who'd been for more than 5 years or had followed me. I mean, it was, when I think about it, I just think, God, Rich, what were you doing? But I was doing it because I was I was running that business on emotion, not on facts, and not on, what's the point of increasing the prices and then discount them all back down again? You keep the prices the same.
I'm that guy, and I'm laughing because I keep hearing myself in everything that you're saying, don't do. But other thing I was laughing at was about 13 comments in a row coming saying I want to come, and someone said that I think your busiest day ever in a salon would be after this, inviting people down to come and see it. An interesting conflict. I'm going to warn you guys. I did say I'd warn you because of the clap. It's 10 minutes to the NHS clap.
Thank you.
Someone's put that we don't do any discounts at all, but then in the same sentence, we just do 20%. Hang on, what's going on? We just do 20% off the 8th visit, and they love it. So it works out that they only get the discount once a year.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. If they want to do that, that's fine. Sometimes, Simon, it's very interesting, but we have to remember that we are human beings as well, and we have to sleep at night. And sometimes you do something like that because it makes you feel good. And if it makes you feel good giving something back to your clients, then for me, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, again, apologies, I read everything like a 3-year-old. But yeah, people are excited. They all want to seem to come down to your two salon. There's a lot of people there. Nicola Sol, again, who's a massive sort of contributor to this page. I'm lucky I'm in the town. I bought the property too, and thankfully finished paying off the mortgage 5 years ago. Not myself included in this. This isn't a thing that you can even have an option for at the moment, because a lot of my town centre shops, they only come up for rent. They don't come up for sale. So if you've got a property in the last 5 years, you've done well, mate.
Well, it depends, because I've never owned my properties. And the reason I've found that by not owning my property, I moved a lot. So I moved from one salon to another salon, and I grew and grew. I've got friends of mine that have owned their salons and they've never moved. And I think that was detrimental to their business. They needed to move and they never. And because they owned it. And so they looked upon owning the property as, well, we don't have to pay rent. Well, that's not a good investment then, because that property it's an investment. It should be making money. And if you've got a property and you own it and you've got a business inside it, that property has to pay the business the amount of rent that it should be paying. Otherwise, it's a bad investment. And again, you put on your business head and you split the two things. You can't make the hairdressing business look good because it's got no rent. That isn't a good business. So you do have to, there's pros and cons to it.
When I had 3 salons, I owned the building in one of them. And eventually when I sold that business to the girl who was managing it, I still kept the building, just rented the building. Mm. It's just an investment, and then eventually sold the building and did something else with the money. But that's just it shouldn't deviate from what your end goal is, which is about how much money you want to make and the sort of business you want to grow. And buying stuff along the way is great if you can do it. So, and if you buy something big enough that allows you to grow within it, then great. Some people might find a really unique property over 2 or 3 floors and they can expand and that's got everything they want, then great. If you can grow your business within it, then great. But sometimes them salons they buy are slightly smaller, and as Chris said, you get stuck in that premises and you can't move, and you don't move. And that's the challenge, because ultimately you should be making money from the hairdressing, beauty and the services that we provide.
It's only about 5 minutes left, is it, Simon? Yeah. And just before we finish, because we were saying that this paying wages is another subject that comes up. And so, for the benefit of the people who are watching, we were saying, wasn't we, Simon, Richard, that we would put on some sort of course. Well, it isn't a course, but it's an education program to cover wages, for instance, to get people a chance to see how we can cover wages in a video type thing. Is that right, Richard?
Yeah.
And so we'll be offering that soon. Also,
just put a video on our Facebook about self-employment. So something I created just recently because it's a question that was been asked a lot recently about moving forward, and I put together about half an hour video on it's on our Facebook. Couldn't upload it to Instagram. I don't know. I'm not very techie, as you can probably imagine, me and Chris. But it's on there, and that goes into detail around self-employment, and then doesn't really address taking someone from self-employment and making them employed. That's why it's a bigger. It's on there when they want to watch.
Yeah, so what we'll do is then I'll get some more information on this, but there's quite a lot still watching this. So if anybody wants any information on it, it will be a wage-focused sort of hour to an hour and a half. What would you call it?
90 minutes,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
like 90 perfect. A 90-minute sort of live, interactive like this with an audience where you want to sort of do something for charity regarding it as well, don't you?
Yep.
So rather than pay you your normal fee of hundreds of pounds to spend a day with you, they're going to
thousands, Simon.
Yeah. Of pounds to spend a day with you. We're going to do a nominal fee, but the money is going to go to the chosen charity, and we'll sort it by this weekend, and we'll announce it with a date for by the weekend.
Wonderful. Yeah. That'd be great.
One last question, because we have actually got 2 or 3 more minutes here. When you said earlier you had 3 salons, Richard, would you suggest to a person that is, say, similar to myself now, where I want to grow, I want to think, yeah, but I'm not in sort of the profit margins yet, when I start getting that ball rolling and I get that profit turning in, what is the natural step? Is it salon 2 or is it a bigger salon 1?
Bigger salon 1, without a doubt. Sometimes having multiple salons was my goal, to have 10 salons, an academy, and all, that was I had a vision for what I wanted and what have you. It's very difficult to replicate quality, Simon, and being in 2 places at the same time you can't be. And so I used to, when I had 3 salons, I used to just be frustrated in 3 different places. And in the end, we've managed, when we changed that format, managed to get hold of the unit next to our main salon, double the size of that. It's been a lot easier since we did that, more profitable, much easier to manage, much easier to create a cohesive team. Without going into it now, we don't have time to do it. If you're going to go down the route of multiple salons, from my experience, there's lots of tips I would give people, because it's about who you're going to run it, who gets rewarded, how do you reward these people. Very often, most second or third salons, the salon owners don't make any money. It's always the main one that makes the money. So you might as well make the main one more successful, because the second and third salon.
I was the same. I was the same, Simon. I had 3 salons. And realised exactly the same. I couldn't be in 2 places at once. And eventually, it took me 3 years to find the location that we eventually ended up with. 3 years it took looking. So you don't give up if you can't find something. You carry on looking. And we took over a bank, TSB Bank, and we make more money from 1 salon than we did with 3. Yes. Absolutely, and much easier. It's so much easier.
Well, on that note, you've only got a minute left. There is another question. I don't know if you've got time to answer it, but do you still both work on the floor, something she struggles with?
I don't. I haven't worked for about 15 years on the salon floor, but I did do for many years. But Richard, I wouldn't say you do you?
I've gone back on Fridays to my adoring public. What are you talking about? I'm going. When we go back, I'm working because there'll be a demand. I stopped for about 3 years, and then I went back just recently because I felt I needed to. I think that's more of a feeling more of a belief than a reality. But it's always nice to keep in touch with what I felt like I needed to demonstrate what needed doing, and sometimes only you know what you want. So. But not really. Chris is right, not really. I've dabbled.
Well, on that note, if you want to get in touch with myself or the guys at Winning Ways, I'll put the social medias on again because they had a great response last time. There is 2 minutes till the NHS clap, so I will say thank you very much, guys, and I'll be in touch.
And thank you for your family as well. Fantastic.
Thanks for watching.
Simon.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.
See you all.